From Transformers, we have the Studio Series 86 Bumblebee, as well as the Transformers Legacy Prime Universe Arcee. Now this Bumblebee, brand new, deluxe class, everyone's clamoring for him because he looks like he's going to be a standout Bumblebee. This Arcee is 3 years old. Why have I paired these two together? Well, for one, Arcee and Bumblebee from Transformers Prime, they're buddies, right? And also, that Arcee is probably the worst shelf warmer I've ever seen. You more than likely will be seeing that Arcee at a store where you pick up that Bumblebee from. Just looking at the boxes, you can see we have open box for Bumblebee. Again, I like this because no plastic means no glare from my lights. You got Bumblebee here, Bumblebee on the side. It says here, Bumblebee is saved from the acidic insides of Unicron when Daniel Witwicky comes to the rescue. That happens towards the end of the movie. It looks like we have that scene as the backdrop. Kind of cool, and you can see they're going for like the cartoon Volkswagen Beetle as opposed to a proper Volkswagen. And then there's Bumblebee on the side. Over here we have Arcee, motorcycle, Arcee. It's weird that that's just a zoom into that picture. And then on the back, and then the line art. Yay. Let's open them up. Getting these two out of the box, my first thought is the fact that they actually mesh really well with each other. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect Prime Universe Arcee to look that solid against 86 Bumblebee, but they do look like they're from the same, design wheelhouse. They look like they're from the same aesthetic. I know that they did try to G1ify the Prime figures up. That's the reason why I didn't like them so much at first, but it's kind of weird. I've never thought to actually put them next to G1 characters. It's not that far off. Okay, lessons learned. Let's look at Bumblebee first and then talk about Arcee because, of course, Bumblebee is the new hotness. I won't lie, when we first got pictures of this Bumblebee, I was debating on if I wanted to pick him up or not. I thought he looked just too much like the Netflix Bumblebee. But I'm glad that I bit the bullet on him because looking him over, he is a spectacular figure that definitely borrows from that figure, but it's a completely new feeling experience, and you can really see it just with the small details. This is the closest Hasbro has ever come to actually capturing the weirdness that is the G1 Bumblebee head in a Generations line. I think it looks pretty solid. I don't dig how his lips are kind of pursed like that. It looks like he's trying to hold in a sneeze, but aside from that, I like the head sculpt. Let's get out of the way now. Yellow mismatch. Here's the odd thing. It's not because of clear plastic. They just put this entire chunk into black plastic and then painted the yellow. And like always, it's led to this weirdness. You could have just made the chunk yellow and then added the black, but what do I know? I'm not an artist. Where the figure really shines is articulation. In spite of his very stocky and small frame, he actually has a lot of joints to work with. So taking a look at Bumblebee, we have a ball joint at the head that doesn't get much up and down, admittedly, a ball joint at the shoulder, an upper arm cut, a good single jointed elbow, a wrist swivel. Down here we have a waist swivel, we have a universal at the hip and upper thigh cut, a good knee that actually goes about the same amount in both directions. We have a very big foot pivot, and then we can actually go back and forth. You gotta remember, this entire front of the Beetle is his foot, so that is his ankle articulation. But it does mean that Bumblebee has a good standing base in spite of how clunky his feet are, something that I was kind of worried about, to be honest. Keep in mind, this is an extensive retool of Netflix Bumblebee, but you can see just how much has been changed here. The shoulders are different, forearms are different, the torso's different, the pelvis is different, the leg articulation's different. They changed so much that it might as well be its own mold, but it has been confirmed that this is a very intense remold of this original skeleton. So, what is a remold anymore? It kind of feels like a remold might just be brand new figures sometimes. What I will say is, as much as I prefer this Bumblebee design-wise, I like this yellow. I like this yellow a lot more. There's something about this bright yellow that I think is really drowning out some of the good sculpted detail of that Bumblebee. And then just for fun, here he is with Origins Bumblebee as well. All three of these would be great additions to a Generation shelf. They all are kind of going for different things. You have more of a toy thing with this Bumblebee, more cartoon with this Bee, and then that's just the pilot episode. I still think Origin Bumblebee is my favorite one here, but I think 86 is a very solid B, and let's be honest, going forward it's probably going to be the easiest one to find. Popping over to Arcee, I feel like it's time to retell a story of mine. You see, I was a lifelong Transformers fan, but about a year and a half ago, I sold off almost all of my Transformers, and I did that because I was burnt out with the franchise, I was burnt out with all the Hasbro's practices at the time. I just had to figure out what I wanted my collection to be, right? And one of the biggest sticking points that convinced me I just need to leave this fandom right now was Legacy Arcee and Legacy Bulkhead. I saw what they did to the Prime characters and said they're going to ruin Prime designs and just make it more G1 pandering. I'm done with Transformers. And I feel really bad about that now because, one, what a dumb thing to, like, abandon a collection over. Like, oh, I don't like 2 figures, it's ruined forever now. But also, this is actually a really nice figure. Here's what I realized, right? I shouldn't look at this as a perfect recreation of the Prime Arcee. We're probably going to get that in Studio Series eventually, because Hasbro's more or less said that's an option. But this is a recreation of Prime Arcee, kind of like how Classics was a recreation of the G1 characters. And in that way, I like this a lot. The head sculpt is very sharp. I love the design of the overall body. There's a lot of cool armor detailing, and the articulation's actually really solid for a motorcycle bot. Looking articulation over, we have a ball joint at the head, we have a universal at the shoulder, we have an upper arm cut, a good single elbow, a wrist swivel, we have a waist joint that is kind of hidden down here, you have a universal at the hip, a good single jointed knee that can become double jointed if you want to use a transformation joint, and then down here we have a toe joint and side to side at the ankle. It took me getting the G2 Universe Jazz for me to realize that this mold was quality. And that's sad, and I think it really speaks to the fact that as much as I like to think I'm not just another random fanboy, we all have those dumb hills we try to die on, don't we? And the best thing we can do is just move past them. The accessories are also kind of interesting. So for one, you have these 2 translucent pieces. You can make a big shield, or you can split them apart and they can form like the blade weapons that Prime Arcee used to have on her arms. It doesn't really work. The other accessory is you take out the wheel and then you basically just fold this out. It can get a bit difficult to do it. There we go. And then this is going to be a very weird looking gun. I think it's cool that they painted the rims. I think it helps, but also I don't know what that's supposed to be. But, you know, at least you have the options, and Arcee is falling apart. In their own unique ways, we got 2 really solid robot modes here, but how do these 2 look in vehicle mode? That was a masterclass in intuitive, simple transformation. It gives you this great looking, very cartoonified Volkswagen Bumblebee, but everything here was so quick and easy, but it was clever all the same. There weren't many transformation steps, but they were big and sweeping, little cleanup motions to make it all work in the end. Just like Gears a while back, this Bumblebee is really showing how the mini-bots can have some of the most clever and yet still simple transformations ever. I also really love how they have the big wheel back here. That's accurate to the G1 toy. Now, if you want to put the gun anywhere, you can put it here. If I can get it to tab in. Yep. It's tight, but it can tab in. So, overall, what I'd say about this Bumblebee, I wish I had waited to make my top 10 Bumblebee list, because this would definitely have been in the top 3, possibly could have been the top 1. Arcee's motorcycle mode is a good bit more gappy, but at the same time, they're trying their best to do a motorcycle. They're hard. I'm gonna look at these 2. I could say that Arcee is a really solid robot mode with a iffy motorcycle mode, but a decent transformation. Bumblebee, though, he is the total package. A great robot, a cute car, and one of the most clever transformations I've ever seen on a Bumblebee. If I had to recommend one, it would be 86 Bumblebee. This might be one of the best, if not the best Bumblebees I've ever messed with. Though I do still think people sleep on this Arcee. Me being one of them for a very long time. A good figure, but admittedly, maybe this wasn't the fairest figure to pair them up with.